It's 9 o'clock on Monday, the 30th of January 2017, and this is the Cats Whiskers podcast live. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Cats Whiskers podcast. My name is John O'Bullard. We're going to be looking back at Panthers games against the Cardiff Devils on Saturday and Coventry Blaze on Sunday. We'll have a few of your tweets to go through, all the rest of the Panthers news and Elite League news, as well as the Elite League results. So we'll crack straight onto it, but first it's time to welcome Antoine Marie-Jean.
Hello.
Paul Baum.
Hello.
And Tina Taylor.
Hiya!
Hiya! Right, we'll crack straight on, and if you've got anything that you would like to get in touch with us about, you can do via Twitter. It's at Cats Whiskers TV. We would love to hear from you as the show goes on. So, we'll start with Cardiff against Panthers on Saturday night. Cardiff coming away with a 5-0 victory. In the first period, Joey Haddad and Matthew Myers scored 15 seconds apart before Joey Martin added a third. No scoring in the second period before Patrick Asselin and Patrick Bordelot wrapped it up in the third period. So, Tina, you watched this on the webcast.
For my sins.
A bit of a Saturday night disaster in Cardiff.
A bit of a Saturday night disaster. Wow. I was holding my head in my hands by the end of the first period, I think. Which is a little bit annoying because we started really well, but until the two quick goals went in, I was sort of thinking, this is cause to, maybe be a little bit positive, perhaps, that we might get a result. But no, it was really, really odd. The first goal was, it was really well worked. Mika was screened, couldn't see it coming in. And then the second one was, they really jumped on it, and at that point, it just felt like the game was dead. It was awful. And the third one going in before the end of the first was, it felt like an insurmountable obstacle. To be perfectly honest, the body language of the players was not good. So it was a bit of a surprise that we didn't concede anymore in the second period. If we'd have conceded another 2 or 3 in the second, I'd have probably switched off. But yeah, it was encouraging that they sort of got it together and sort of went out of there in the second a bit more solid and shored up. I really expected Cardiff to continue jumping all over us and really sticking the knife in, but there was just a sort of a workmanlike ethic. But yeah, there was no you could sort of feel at least the Asselin goal coming. So if we'd have got a goal back at the beginning of the third, I might have had a bit of hope that we could have taken something out of it. But when Asselin's goal went in, that was it. As I say, the way the players looked at the end of the first, I thought, well, they don't look like they're going to be able to pick themselves back up. And I think that second period performance was probably the one thing. The thing that kept them going, really. And so, as I say, when it came to the third, I thought, if we can get a goal, then it's possible that the comeback might be on. But when it was a Cardiff goal, that was it, and it was just sort of seeing it out, really. Damage limitation, I suppose, and just making sure we don't incur any more injuries. Yeah, it was a hard watch. It was a very hard watch, unfortunately.
Mika Wiekman pulled after the third goal. Is that a worry?
He seemed okay on Sunday, I suppose. I've got to be honest. It's when you concede those 3 goals in 2.5 minutes. It's not the first time we've done that, and I was expecting an absolute mullering. So to come out with only a 5-0 loss, it's not as bad as it could have been. from the people that were at the game, they just said similar to what Tina said. We battled well for the first sort of 10 minutes, and then as soon as they got that first, that was it. It was game over, and that's really disappointing. And I think we're lucky in that, when Weekman is on his game, he's one of the best in the league. When he's not, we've got Henry, who's he's decent in his own rights as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've tried to watch the highlights, and I had to turn it off after the third goal because I was getting thoroughly depressed. And it's not something I want to be on just before we go live. You want to be a bit more upbeat, but it's hard after that.
Right.
I mean,
because I leave the miserableness to you, Paul.
I'm not miserable. I'm bearably cheerful. Cheerfully bearable. I don't know which.
Paul, considering our results against Cardiff this season, to go there and get shut out, especially after the last time we was at Ice Arena Wales, we won 8-0, is a bit of a disappointment, to say the least.
It is, isn't it? But being unbearably cheerful, just think, even though we've lost 5-0, our goal difference over the last 2 games there is still positive.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a lot of people in Cardiff basically saying that that we'd got their number almost. That we knew how to play against them, but and they didn't know how to play against us. Well, I think they've worked that out, haven't they?
Definitely. One of the things that sort of bothered me a little bit that came out from Saturday night was the interviews afterwards, where the excuse was used that the players are weary. Now, for me, that doesn't wash at all. But I'm going to ask you guys as well, Tina.
I've actually stopped reading the interview. I'll read the post articles because I like Matt's writing, but. In terms of what the Panthers' output at the moment, it's whenever we have a loss, and I mean just like this, there's been a few jokes made about it. The Panthers say Panthers saying that we've been short benched. Are we talking short benched by the Panthers standards, or short benched as in somebody like Manchester standards? We've still been able to roll 3 lines. So, and although yes, we've faced a team that have 4 lines, it doesn't. Weary is probably an adequate word to use, but I don't. As a quote from an interview, it's a bit odd. I mean, they weren't particularly. They didn't look particularly weary on Sunday. I don't know. I just don't like where the interviews go when there's been a loss. It just seems like I'm at a loss for words, really. I mean, we've been to Ice Arena Wales a few times now. We know what the journey's like, and we know what to expect when we get there. We've had harder trips to Cardiff. Knowing that at the other end of that journey down there, you've got to play in the big blue tent is probably it's reason for you to be weary. But that excuse isn't there anymore. I can understand that. I can understand that there are guys who are playing more minutes than they probably should. But yeah, that's where we are. We've and as I say, we've still been able to roll 3 lines. So I don't like it, basically.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my Skype seems to have frozen on my PC. Wary, we've had a lot of injuries, and we've played a lot of games, as we would, being in the Continental Cup. And I think I've mentioned it previously. You guys have talked about it previously. How many times can you play short and ask players to double shift, triple shift, without it taking a toll? It is going to take a toll, not just physically but mentally as well. And like I say, I mean, I've had to turn the highlights off halfway through because we just looked so out of it. By the time the third went in, the heads went down and everything. So I have some sympathy. But, if we were proactive in bringing in a spare or replacements for these players that have been out for pretty much all season, then, that would have made a big difference in my mind.
Paul?
I can't really disagree with anything, really. But, the thing that gets me is that, like Ant was just saying, if we don't replace people, then people are going to get tired. It's like deciding to take one of the wheels off your car and then moaning that it don't run properly.
Mm.
We could have helped ourselves potentially in these situations, and we haven't. So to sit there and go, oh, it's good we're tired, well, do something about it then.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to Sunday, and Sunday, bit better news to say the least. Panthers with an 8-3 victory over the Coventry Blaze. Got going very early in the game. Brian McGrattan and Jeff Dimon giving the Panthers a 2-0 lead after just 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Robert Farmer extending that before TJ Siner pulled one back on the power play. Brad Moran making it a 3-goal stretch again before the end of the first period. Into the second, and McGrattan scored his second. Jeff Brown and Jeff Dimon with a penalty shot made it 7-1 at the end of the second. Robert Farmer made it 8-1 at the beginning of the third period on the power play. A power play goal. Can you believe it? Before Matt Marquardt and Robin Bergman pulled a couple of goals back to give them a couple of consolations. But 8-3, and I've got to admit, I said on Saturday night, I was tweet conversation with Stewart Coles, who's one of the Blaze webcast commentators, and I just says, I can't see anything but a Coventry Blaze win tomorrow. And God bless them, the Panthers went and proved me completely and utterly wrong. And it was a very, very good performance, I thought, Paul.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, was it? You can't say they looked tired, but I think what struck me is what Tina was just saying about the game in Cardiff. About we were okay for a bit, then a couple of goals went in, and it all just fell apart. Well, you flip that round. That's exactly what happened last night. I thought first 5 minutes, Coventry worked with the better team. Or the first couple of minutes, I suppose it was, because we scored quite early. But that first couple of minutes, they were all over us. They could have had at least a goal themselves, and that first goal was very much against the run of play. But another 25 seconds later, Stewart coughs another one up for us, and it was almost at that point the game was over. To be honest,
yeah, I mean,
we never really looked like it being anything other than a Panthers victory from then on.
And Brian Stewart gets a lot of stick from the NIC crowd. He always does. But how did you rate his performance last night? Because I thought it was very, very under par from him. Ant seems to have disappeared. So, Tina, you take that one.
Yeah, I would agree. We've come to expect nothing but practically a wall when we face Brian Stewart.
Have we?
He's a good goalie. He is a very good goalie, and I think obviously he was disappointed with his performance. And I mean, yeah. The one thing I will say, though, is that I don't think the Blaze helped him out defensively. I don't think they were always, there to sort of back him up. You can't guarantee that your goalie is always going to bail you out. You've got to, take some of that, responsibility from him when he is not at his best. Yeah, he looked thoroughly beatable, and I mean, I would say the majority of our goals was sort of, I don't know, they were scrappy. We made chaos in the crease, and that's sort of what gave us the edge, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I've just had a quick look through I don't remember the first period goals. We score that many we score 8 goals in a game. How am I supposed to remember all of them? And to have the highlights to help me out. But I mean, looking at those first period goals, McGrattan, Stewart put it straight on his stick from a rebound straight up the middle. Dimmons, again,
it's exactly the
Stewart
same.
made the initial save. Sorry?
It was exactly the same, wasn't it? It was a rebound straight to the slot.
Yeah, you put it. Yeah, and I mean, Farmer's, that was just a well-worked move. A lot of the time, he was out on his own in front. Stewart didn't have any chance, but Moran's. I mean, the thing to say about Moran's was the pass for that was sublime. The way it just redirect, moved the whole direction of play from, looked like it was going sort of away from where we were sat, brings it over to our wing, and Moran's there just to put it a fairly soft shot through Stewart's 5-hole.
Yeah, and Ant, are you back with us?
Yes, I am. I believe so.
Yes, he's back. There he is. So yeah, Brian Stewart, how did you rate his performance?
Stewie? Hello.
No, I think he's gone again. So we'll move on again. So the line of Farmer, McGrattan, and Lindargan. Hello. Yes. So Brian Stewart, how did you rate him?
Well, this is going well, isn't it?
Well,
I thought he was poor. He's doing for you, but that's the man that looked weary.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we're struggling with Ant at the minute. Right, we will carry on.
McGrattan and Lindargan.
Yeah, so the line of Farmer, McGrattan and Lindargan was outstanding, contributing 4 goals and 3 assists between them. Paul, they are since Lindargan joined that line, since moving from defence into the forward line, so that they looked very, very dangerous every time they were out on the ice yesterday.
They did, I think it's been coming. Obviously, Saturday. Except I think that's been coming for a while. I mean, McGrattan, I think he's about 4 goals in 4 games or something like that.
Yes.
He's found some form, and with Farmer and Lindargan, he's obviously Nielsen's obviously found the players to fit round him. Fit round him well. McGrattan, when he's properly on his game, he's almost unplayable in this league because he's got the strength, he's got the hockey sense. I mean, a lot of people still want to tell you he's nothing but a goon, but you look at the way he plays the game. People say he's coasting the same way people said David Ling used to coast, and in as much as, but he reads the game. He doesn't necessarily. You haven't got to go all the way back. You need somebody when you do get the puck to start the break as well. So probably about this last month, he's really, really, really impressed me.
Ant, are you back with us?
And let's try this again, shall we?
Yeah.
How's that coming through?
Yeah,
coming through okay.
Yeah, you're coming through fine now. So the line of Farmer, McGrattan, and Lindargan, how do you feel they're contributing at the minute?
McGrattan's the man, isn't he? I don't know what fire that Caps Banter Army lit, but he's certainly done a job. Get that man a job as a motivational speaker. Farmer, for me, one of the best Brits in the league at the moment. I've always liked them two together since the start of the season, to be honest. There was a time when Corey put them with Jeff Brown, and I was really looking forward to seeing a bit more of that, a bit more of a crash bang wallop line like we had with the Farmer Jansen line last year. But Lindargan's just a class above. You can watch that man skate with a puck all day, to be honest. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and his hair's not bad either.
One thing that I thought was not surprising but quite refreshing was Coventry coach Danny Stewart's post-match comments, and I have them here. I will read them out. And he basically said, "There's not much to say. We sucked tonight. We played a good 2.5 minutes at the start of the game where we were unlucky not to get a goal. They scored scored 2 quick ones on us, and we sucked from then on.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, but he said it yesterday, post-match. But I've got...
which means he's still right.
But I must admit, it's really refreshing to see a head coach basically come out and go, no spin, no nothing, we were rubbish. I really like that.
But is that because most of the time what you get, especially with our club, is spin and rubbish? Is it that is actually any good? I mean, yes. I think it is. Fair play to him for saying that. But is it because all we get is we were tired, we didn't get the bouncers, they were using the wrong sort of paint in the crease, things like that?
There's only Sheffield that do that, isn't it?
No, we did it. It was Newcastle. It was all Newcastle's fault. Is it then that because we don't hear these things, when we actually hear the normal, it sounds so much better than it actually is? Possibly.
Tina?
Yeah, I thought it was good. it was plain and simple. We were rubbish. And end of discussion. Oh, okay. Cheers, Danny. Keep it simple. You don't need to overcomplicate the matter. If you were rubbish, yeah, fine. We'll just say, yeah, we were rubbish. Move on.
I mean, one of the tweets we had from fans early today from @Panthers 6233 Sam. He says Panthers look good simply because Coventry was so poor. Ant, is that fair?
I actually thought that myself to begin with, but then as the game went on, as the players gained in confidence, some of the passing, some of the movement was, it was right up there. It's back to like Panthers at their that we've seen from the Panthers this season. I don't think Coventry's defence helped Stewart. I don't think Stewart had a great game, and as much as we malign him and despise the little toe rag, without Noble, they've got no spark. The one thing that was curious to me, and Andy mentioned it on the WhatsApp group, was Klotz. And I was chatting to one of my friends in Bunkers afterwards, who's a Blaze fan, and Klotz had one shift in the first, one shift in the second, and then a couple of shifts in the third. What's the point of carrying a play like that if you're not going to play him, even when you're short benched?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to be reminded he was playing.
I don't recall him being on the ice at any point. To be honest,
I recall him being on the ice, but only because when that discussion was happening, that he was just skating on. so I saw the jersey. I saw Klotz right in front of me. I was like, oh yeah, there he is. And that was in the third period. Genuinely, the first time I noticed him.
Yeah, very, very strange one, I must admit. Lee Constable, he says we scored an EIHL power play, woohoo! And I think that was our first power play goal in 17 attempts. So it was coming, it has to be said from Robert Farmer.
It had to be coming. That's an awful record.
Yeah. And finally, a question from David Spence that I want to ask all of you. He says, when it comes to the league, in all reality, does it even matter now? For once, focusing on cups is right for the rest of the year. So, Paul, I'll start with you. What do you think to what Spence has to say there?
I'll get onto this when we talk about something else later.
Okay, fair enough.
Keeping me powder dry to an extent. But, yeah, he's got a point, to be honest. The league is gone, but by the same token, you've got to keep a bit of momentum going. You can't just keep turning it on and off. Although the way we've been the last few weeks, turning it on would have been quite nice. But you can't. Yeah, I mean, yes. I think concentrate on the cups is really the only thing we can do now. But we also doesn't mean we can slack off in the others, because slacking off soon becomes a state of mind. And you end up doing that when you should be turning it on.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Paul, to be honest. The league's long gone, but momentum is everything, especially going into playoffs and what have you. And I want to keep our trophy. I want to keep the Challenge Cup, and we've got an uphill struggle against Sheffield. But likewise, we can't just, just for the competition's sake, we can't just phone it in for the rest of the league season. Wouldn't be fair to the rest of the teams.
Wouldn't be fair to us fans either.
And Tina?
It feels a little bit like maybe 11 months or so ago when we're all, we've all had a couple of months of, oh no, we're not in the league challenge again. It's not going to happen. And then, you sort of, everybody took a step back and looked at it mathematically and said, well, actually, if we win this one here and then we do well in this one, if we pick up these points here, there, and wherever, then yeah, we can start creeping up on that top three. And sort of February time last year, the top teams were all trading points, and we had that Periscope, which we don't need to talk about again.
No.
But that was after a Belfast game where if we'd have won, we could have felt like we were putting pressure on the top two in the table or whoever it was, So, and then we came out of that game. We were so frustrated because the performance was so flat. It was just god awful. And
that Periscope.
That's the one.
That Periscope.
That's the one. So it just feels like we've hit that particular point a month early because not so long ago. I was sort of pointing out that if we hit maximum points, then we could find ourselves a point behind the Giants, and then we went and lost to them, and then we picked up another loss, and and then that was it. That was it. Just so it feels like we've hit that point a month early, where we could have put ourselves in a good position, and we didn't.
Okay, so we're going to move on from the games on Saturday and Sunday. Something else that happened last week. There was an article in the Nottingham Post on Friday where Corey Nielsen was criticising a forward. He didn't name them, but it was mentioned that Stephen Schultz and Chris Lawrence didn't ice on Wednesday when one of them could have done. And I want to ask your guys' thoughts on this because, one, is it right that this is put out in the public domain? And also, is it then completely unprofessional of the player in question, or does the player know their own body better than anybody else and knows whether they can play or not, even if they have had medical clearance? So, Anne, I'll start with you.
I think it's refreshing for us to come out with something like this, to be honest. You only have to look at the various Facebook groups, Cage Forum, etc. I know it's not normally the happiest of places, but to say that, the two players in question have come under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of people are calling for the likes of, how many games has Schultz missed? What's the point in keeping him when we could be using his wages for somebody else, etc. For me, you have to pick and choose your time to go public, and maybe Nielsen's lost patience and he wants a response from the player who, whichever one it was. I don't know, but yeah, it was for me. It was nice to hear actually a bit of passion and a bit, Corey sounding a bit peed off with things, and he's obviously not happy himself in the way things are going at the moment.
Paul?
It must be. The first thing I thought when I read that was it must be bad if Corey's coming out and saying that, because he's not. You see other coaches who almost at times seem to enjoy going into the local press to complain about their team, saying perhaps they only like to play at home, perhaps, or something, But the way I look at it is this. If we've got a player who could play but doesn't want to, then A, why is he still here? I'm with Brian Clough. You know Forrest better than me, John. Wasn't it John Sheridan he sold after about 2 months?
Yes.
Yeah, because Sheridan didn't want to be there. So what's the point of hanging on to somebody who doesn't want to be there? because and if the player, because we don't know who it is, if that player is, when he's next fit, if he hasn't been fit already, and it's a league game, regardless of how short benched we are, I'd sit him. I honestly would. I'd dress him. I'd sit him on the end of the bench, and he wouldn't get a minute. Honestly, because
that's kind of what Corey Nielsen did to Jay Galbraith, didn't he? Over in Belfast.
Well, so he should have done, frankly.
Yeah, because it was that was an interesting time. But yeah, I agree. Sorry, Paul. I didn't want to.
No, that's fine. I pretty much vented. Because at the end of the day, what is his punishment? I mean, you might actually see this as a punishment. What is his punishment for not wanting to play against Sheffield? Getting to play next time he's fit.
Yeah. I mean,
you may continue, Tina.
Yeah.
I mean, Tina, is it right though that a player knows his body better than anybody else, and is that an excuse, or is it a case of man up, get yourself out there?
I think we've maybe got two schools of thought here. I mean, for me, the way this has all come out, and the fact that Corey Nielsen has got so frustrated, he's sort of lost his patience, and he has said it all. It kind of says to me that, I don't know if I'm reading between. Maybe I'm reading between the lines, but I kind of feel like he is frustrated because he's having to put up with that. Because he's not getting the support that he needs. He is not. I mean, I could be getting this totally wrong, obviously, because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But and I suppose, well, I mean, that's part of the problem. Is there anything going on behind the scenes, in terms of the fact that we've had to put up with the injuries to the imports that we've had?
Well, wasn't that what he said? As well, people, wasn't it one about people have got to understand? Sorry, I'm doing it to you now, Tina.
Nah.
People have got to understand, but the other thing is, if Nielsen doesn't say things like this,
no,
normally, so I get the feeling that Wednesday was probably not the first time.
Yeah,
if he's reached a point where he's having to say it.
I mean, it just feels like that to me, the way this has all come out, it feels like he's having to put up with this situation, because they've already said that guys have been playing who are a bit banged up, and they've been ploughing through it, but now he's come to a point where he's got a player who isn't ploughing through it, and the one thing I would say is, could that player be making a protest? Not necessarily to the coach. I mean, the coaching staff have, been going on about, as I say, how, guys have been playing through injuries, and is this the player going, no, I'm not playing through my injury. I shouldn't have to do this. The club should have a provision for this. So, I don't know. I mean, there's two different ways of thinking, of thinking about it. But I suppose, we go on about hockey players being, in inverted commas, warriors, and ploughing through it and playing through injuries, doing whatever needs to be done for the team. But at a certain point, you have to say enough. They are human beings at the end of the day. They are not machines. Just as an example I can relate to, there was the Boston Bruins year after they won the Stanley Cup last time round. Patrice Bergeron had a punctured lung, a separated shoulder, and a broken rib, and he played a game 7 through all of that. And I seem to remember towards the second half of the game, he was in so much pain he couldn't take a face off, and that actually hurt the team more, because he is he's the top face off guy on the Boston Bruins team by a country mile, and it actually hurt more because we just weren't winning the face offs, and had he maybe have said, no, I'm not okay to play. I know this is a big game, but I'm in so much pain I cannot be an asset to the team. Then Boston could possibly have drafted another centre in from their EIHL team. And that's just an example that I can sort of relate to. So, there is this sort of mentality that, hockey players are the toughest sportsmen on the planet. And that's, for the most part, that may very well be true. But they're still human beings at the end of the day. And the Nottingham Panthers have a recent history of multiple injuries, multiple years, and is it coming to a crisis point with that sort of thing?
Well, but we don't seem to have players who do what Bergeron did. Ours seem to almost be injured at a drop of a hat. It's. Yeah, I know the conditioning is totally different, but non-existent in our case.
Well, it seems, and that would appear to be, but it's the player himself would have said, he must have said, no, I'm okay to play, and he would have, knowing that he was in pain, still went ahead and played because he didn't want to let the team down, and it's fine. Being the warrior, being the team guy, but there has to come a point where you have to listen to your body. So maybe whichever player this is, maybe they have come to that point.
But at the same time, this player was past medically fit to play.
Which, that's the part that is, but to be fair, past medically fit and being being fit to play, I'm not sure if that's the same thing. There is an awful lot of people going for this player, but being past medically fit to play and actually being okay to play. I mean, do we know if that's the same thing?
Well, that's
just to kind of play devil's advocate, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole other discussion. But I mean, I must admit, I'm with Paul's train of thought is if you've been past medically fit to play, and you turn it down and you say no, I'm not playing, then I'm sorry, but the door's over there. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. If you're not prepared to put yourself on the line for the team, then I don't want you here. It's as simple as that.
I think one thing is definitely for sure: that particular player will not be in a Panthers jersey next season.
I wouldn't have him in a Panthers jersey next week. There you are.
But apparently, that's the situation that we're in, isn't it? Yeah. So, if we have a player with that sort of attitude, we're sort of, if it's the case, this player could have played, and isn't, if for whatever personal reason they're not playing, we should have the what's the word I'm looking for? We should have the resources to be able to say, go home. We don't want you, but we don't have the resources. And just sort of bringing this back to the frustrations of Corey Nielsen, he is not able to say to that player, get out of my club.
Yeah. Okay, and something else that happened last week is the incident in Fife from last weekend, where Eric Neilson was accused of punching a Fife fan after the Fife fan was alleged to have poured a pint of beer over him and grabbed his face cage. The DOPS completed their review on Friday and the findings were announced. So, Eric Neilson received a 3-game ban for his involvement in the incident and also got a further 6 games suspended. Manchester Storm received a fine of £5,000 for failing to control their players and warned of their future conduct, but that fine is also suspended pending no further incidents. The Five Flyers also received a fine of £5,000 for failing to control their fans and been warned of future conduct. Again, that fine is suspended, pending no further incidents. The Elite Leaguers also require the Five Flyers to increase security at their home games in the vicinity of the away bench, and also they will be required to install plexiglass between the fans and the away bench for the start of the 2017-18 season. So, Paul, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on all that? Because from reading social media, most people thought, actually, that's absolutely fine. I'm quite happy with that. I think Dops have got that right. But what do you reckon?
I'm not entirely sure. I'd probably have had Nielsens banned the other way round. So you got 6 games with another 3 suspended.
Yeah.
Perhaps you just, regardless of what's happening, you just can't do that. I'm not saying that the five fan can do what he did either, but something even more worrying about all of this has come out in the press this week. Was that the person who the 5 player who was ejected was then allowed back in so he could collect his 50-50 money.
Yeah.
That says to me that somebody somewhere isn't really taking this very seriously, which is probably a bit of a worry. I also think, if I'm honest, that had it been Panthers and Sheffield that would have been involved, it would be fairly likely that that the fines of the teams would not have been suspended. Mind you, it doesn't really matter with Sheffield getting fined because it just goes back into Tony Smith's pocket anyway, from whence it came. But yeah, so I think they've been a bit lenient here, if I'm honest. We don't want to see things like that happening in the game, and whilst I'm not saying that people should be made an example of or anything, perhaps people should be made an example of.
Tina?
Yeah, I can't add an awful lot to that. I mean, the bans, I don't know if Dops have got any kind of guideline for this kind of scenario. We don't know what it says in the Elite League rule book about this sort of, scenario. So, yeah, we just have to sort of see where it goes. I mean, we sort of touched on it. I sit behind the away bench at the NIC, and I know how heated it can get. So, as a fan, you've got to know where to draw the line as well. You can't behave. You can't. There's got to be some. There's going to be some back and forward because that's that happens. But you got to know when to stop as well. So yes, the player shouldn't have got involved with the fan, and the fan shouldn't have got involved with the player. Exchanging verbals are all well and good, and I've been witness to some absolutely cracking banter between, and it's been just that, banter between the bench and people in my vicinity, and it can be, it can heat things up, and sometimes it can make you giggle, and it's good. It can be. So you've got to know where to draw the line. And we don't want this kind of thing tarnishing the sport. So it's got to be nipped in the bud. So everything that's sort of been dished out, it's a warning shot, really. So we've just got to, as I say, without knowing what the actual guidelines are for the Elite League, in this fabled Elite League rule book, then we just have to sort of take it on advisement that that's what Dops have ruled, and don't do it again.
Mm-hmm. Right, Paul, you got something to add?
Yeah, just coming on that. It's very very quick. I spent 20 years behind the away bench in the old place, and And the worst that we have got chucked at us were a digestive biscuit. But that's a completely different story.
Unfortunately, we've lost Ant. He's got some connection issues, so I'm really sorry. On his behalf, he does apologise, but he won't be able to take part in the rest of the show, unfortunately. So it's just us three. Can
you still hear us?
I think if he's listening, he can hear us, but he was messaging saying he couldn't hear us on Skype. So he's had to go, unfortunately. So we will no doubt see him next time. We are going to move on from that and look at the other Elite League results from the weekend. The big news was that the Belfast Giants had 2 games at the Sheffield Arena, winning 5-2 on Saturday and 5-4 on Sunday. Cardiff also, after their 5-0 victory over the Panthers, got a 2-1 victory up in Fife on Sunday. 4-point weekends for both of them means that it's opened up a gap to 3rd place Sheffield. So, well, I must admit I was surprised that Belfast won both games on Saturday and Sunday. Tina?
Yeah, didn't really see that coming. I mean the Belfast and Sheffield have been they can easily trade blows, as it were, but yeah, that's a cracking result for the Giants. There was a large following that went over and just basically owned the Sheffield Arena, from what I hear, and they were fully rewarded for it. That was a blooming good trip for them. Yeah, blooming good trip for them. But I think most Cardiff fans would probably have wanted a split weekend. but it didn't happen. So instead of Sheffield putting the pressure on Cardiff now, it's the Giants that are coming for them. Cardiff need to they need to really get themselves back on a roll so that they can put some daylight between them and the Giants, because otherwise it's bridesmaid mode all over again.
I mean, Paul, looking at the table, Cardiff 55 points after 36 games, Belfast 54 after 37, Sheffield 47 after 35. Do you think it's a 2-horse race now?
It's looking that way, but it's anything can surprise you in this league. There's still a lot of hockey to be played, and because teams play each other so often, that I think I've said this before, those differences are magnified. So there's probably a fair few 4-point games still to be played, which is why we're still in it. Yeah.
No, we're not.
We made the playoffs yet?
I'm not sure. I don't think we have. No, we haven't. We haven't, because we're only 12 points ahead of Dundee, who are 9th. So no, we have not made the playoffs yet. Not mathematically, anyway. A message that I got earlier today. There's something for us to bring up which relates to Steelers against the Giants, and it was from Adrian. He says, do you think the Belfast team stuck up Sims's tweet about Belfast being the most arrogant in the Elite League in the dressing room? I don't think it was a tweet. I think it was comments in the Sheffield programme about Belfast being the most arrogant organisation in the Elite League. And I must admit, once I got that message, it sort of crossed my mind. Yeah, I mean, if you want to sort of motivate a team, bang, there you go, boys. This is what Simsy says about us. Go out there and win. You don't need to. Walser wouldn't have needed a team talk. For that, just I mean, you've seen it before. You've seen it time and time again where things like that come out, and what was it? Challenge Cup semi to Ryan Schmidt, wasn't it? But I remember a few years ago Ryan Schmidt, where it was in the Sheffield press that we're happy when Ryan Schmidt is on the ice because nothing. Because
it means the better players aren't.
Yes, and lo and behold,
won that by 2, and he scored 3 goals, wasn't it?
Yeah, he scored 2 goals, including the game-winning, the tie-winning goal to win the Challenge Cup. So yeah, backfire. So, so that
sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut.
Yes, definitely.
But I doubt anybody from Belfast would be agreeing with that.
Yeah. From the other results, the Manchester Storm getting a 4-point weekend, which sees them stretch ahead of Coventry. Manchester in 7th on 34 points, Coventry in 8th on 31. Just 3 points ahead of Dundee, who have 2 games in hand on them. Tina, it's getting tight for that last playoff spot.
Yeah, it's just I think I've been a bit lax on updating my stats, unfortunately, today. I haven't had it's actually been busy at work. How dare they? But yeah, I think it's something like 4 points that separates the 3 of them. If you even out the games and at 38 and give them all, assume the maximum points. Yeah, there's the potential. The points that they have, I think there's something like 4 points separating the 3 teams. It's tight. It's looking just as interesting down the bottom of the table as it is at the top. I mean, if we don't start picking up some regular points soon, then we're going to be finding the Storm and the Flyers nipping at our backside. So we need to be a little bit careful as well.
Well, looking at 4th, 5th, and 6th, Panthers 4th, 40 points. Braehead 5th, 39 points. However, they have played 4 games more. And Fife 38, having played a game more. So even in the middle, it's and they're going to be the sort of the nasty playoff ties, really, aren't they? In that sort of middle bit.
I don't think there's any good playoff tie, as we have shown. We can lose to anybody. Yeah, I mean, we lost to 8th place Coventry, and they went on to win it. It was something as bonkers as that. We had the home tie. We didn't have enough of we didn't give ourselves enough breathing space, and we went down to the Sky Dome, and they absolutely served our backsides to us on a plate, and we were out. So
it was actually last season. It was because Sheffield were the top seeds, and then Coventry, who were the bottom seeds, beat them in the quarter. The year that we played Coventry, we, as I say, as is standard procedure for us usually in the Sky Dome, we got our backsides handed to us. So we can lose to anybody. We've had tight games against some of the Garden teams as well. So there's I don't think there is a good playoff tie. If I'm honest.
So what you're saying is anybody can beat the Nottingham Panthers on any given night.
just give the cliche a little bit of
it has to be said though that playoff series against Coventry, we were shocking.
Yes,
in fact we weren't even that good.
Yes, we were.
last time I graced the Sky Dome, that was I'm having flashbacks.
I think on that note, then we will leave it. Just to remind you, just to remind you that AskTCW will return on Wednesday after a week's break because of the Panthers Sheffield game last Wednesday. If you want to get your questions into us, you can do so via Twitter at CatsWhiskersTV. Use the hashtag AskTCW. We've got a thread on the Cage Forum where you can leave a question there, and also messages on our Facebook group. Or you can send an email, tcwonlinetv@gmail.com. We would love to hear your questions for Wednesday, but all that remains to be said is say thank you very much to Ant, who sadly had to leave us early. Thank you very much to Dina.
TTFN.
And thank you very much to Mr. Bullbaum.
That's fine, no problem. If you want to find out the story about the digestive biscuit, just send that question in.
And thank you very much from me. Thank you very much to you for listening. We will be back on Wednesday for AskTCW. But until then, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you then.